Mixed martial arts. Mixed martial arts. UFC 281 preview show starts now!
Yes, the hunger of the combat sports world is focused on the Big Apple, the setting for UFC 281 tomorrow night. It's at the Mecca, Madison Square Garden, where a long-reigning world champion will look to exercise some demons in the main event, while the challenger will look to improve to 3-0 in their competitive rivalry. A lot of important questions will hopefully be answered when the UFC's return to MSG commences. But today, we talk about some of those burning questions with all of you on the MMA Fighting Live UFC 281 preview show. Thank you for joining us. We're a few minutes early. Surprise. We're just so excited. I am Mike Hack, and folks, if you can't tell by the energy in my voice, the anticipation levels are super high for me. I don't know about you, but I am jacked and I am ready to go. And I'm happy to be joined along this ride with my best friend, Alexander Kaylee, AK. How are you, my buddy? How are you, my best friend? This is a great day. I'm feeling good.
It is a great day. I'm trying to think of a poll to throw up. We did one earlier at the weigh-ins, the live weigh-ins, how many titles would change hands. One was the predominant answer, 47%. So I don't want to do that again. I think we got a pretty good sample size there. So I'm just trying to think of a poll, something real juicy for people to sink their teeth into, you know what I mean? And I'll let you guys know when that poll is ready.
Well, maybe this could be the poll, because let's just get this out of the way here. People don't come to listen to me talk. They come here because they want to know the answer to one important question that comes for you. And that question is, what is the gymnastics score for UFC 281? Because the card is loaded. I imagine the score is pretty high, but I'm intrigued.
I love this card. I love this card. I went 10 out of 10 for UFC 280. Like I said, like if everything landed, like that card could have been an all-time great. It wasn't. We know how that card turned out now. It wasn't a bad card. I don't think UFC 280 was a bad card, but there were some disappointing, somewhat forgettable bouts. Some of the undercard didn't deliver, but I still thought it was a really good card. And I think if you take like the top slice of it, you're pretty happy with what you got. 281, similar. I mean, I think it has even more star power than 280 had, at least on the prelims, sort of name recognition wise, rankings implications. So, but I guess maybe because I've been bitten by 280. Should I temper my expectations? Is it also, am I afraid that we get another, Adesanya main event that isn't necessarily the most crowd pleasing affair? I'll temper. Let's go, but let's keep it high. Let's keep it high, guys. Stay positive. I think this card could be like a 9.6, which would still be an all-time great card if everything lands. I think it's gonna be a 9.6 on the degree of difficulty scale. I love how the UFC has built up most of the matchups in this card. I love the booking, the pairings that they've come up with. It's just a really strong card. I think we've said something positive about almost every fight on the card. And if you guys haven't heard about it, we'll certainly go over some of those positives today.
Well, let's start with the main event. Israel Adesanya, Alex Pereira. Look, the chapters in the story, they're well known at this point. This has been brilliantly set up and built up by the UFC. And I think we can all admit, without the history between these two guys, the two bouts they had in Glory of Heroes kickboxing, the knockout in the second fight, the mere thought of this fight happening right now, it's just plain ridiculous, AK. It makes no sense. But the story is here, and the UFC did an amazing job getting us here. The fight is just so fascinating on a number of levels. So just, when you think about this fight, someone just asked you on the street, and they're like, I know you. You're Alexander K. Lee. You're the best friend of us all. Tell us about Adesanya versus Pereira. What are you telling them on the eve of this fight?
I would say, first of all, MMA is supposed to be fun. This is a very, very fun main event matchup. Now, why is it fun? I would then ask, do you guys remember UFC 1, UFC 2, UFC? Do you guys remember the single-digit UFCs when it was, kickboxing versus sumo versus Krav Maga versus Taekwondo versus karate or whatever? We didn't, this was before we had rankings, before we had, a proper roster even. And we just wanted to see the best fight the best from their respective backgrounds. Now, in this case, we know we know that Alex Pereira is a world champion kickboxer. He did it twice over with glory, middleweight, light heavyweight. We know that he's beaten the champion. He's beaten the champion in combat sports. It's not MMA. I understand. It's not MMA. I understand that the champion, Israel Adesanya, his accomplishments in MMA dwarf Alex Pereira's accomplishments in MMA. He's only fought 7 times, or this is his 7th fight, right? This is this is his 8th fight. He's only fought 7 times professionally in MMA, 3 times in the UFC, 1 ranked opponent, Sean Strickland. But for me, that's all it takes. Because as soon as his last fight with LFA, as soon as it became clear that he was making a very, very hard pivot to committing to MMA, how could people not want to see him fight Israel Adesanya again? We thought it was a little bit of a long shot. We thought, well, who's he going to have to beat? You know, middleweight has actually had like a pretty good lineup of contenders when Pereira signed on with the promotion. But as the champ himself kind of pointed out earlier this week, he cleared out the way. You know, he took out the Cannoneers. He took out Robert Whittaker. He took, these are Marvin Vettori. These are guys that Alex Pereira did not have to fight on the way up because, again, why would they throw those guys back into the contenders line when Izzy's already beaten them? Some of them twice in the case of Vettori and Whittaker. The fans wanted the UFC and fans wanted a fresh challenger. And this guy just so happens again to be a foil of Adesanya. He's a stand-up fighter. It's very easy to envision how this fight will go just by watching their first 2 fights, which again, Pereira won, right? I mean, he close decision the first fight, insane knockout that's been repeated a million times the second fight. So how can you not want to see it? Don't worry about, again, how many MMA fights Pereira has had. Don't worry about where he is in the rankings, like in the global, in our rankings, the MMA fighting global rankings. He's only number 7. So he's pretty far behind some of the guys, again, that we said he didn't have to beat. But again, at the end of the day, there's this great history between them. It's a great stylistic matchup. I feel there's some element of unpredictability. We can kind of get to that more in a bit. And this to me is how the mixing of the martial arts should be at the highest levels. So I'm just really excited about it.
I think unpredictability is such a great word because at this point in the build, I feel like it's kind of difficult to even break it down anymore because I feel like we've been doing that for months and months since 276, even before this thing had a date attached to it. We've already been starting the process, and even before that. So I feel like as soon as Pereira signed to the UFC, we're already talking about this fight being a thing. And no matter how you slice it, it's just really tough because no matter where I sit at any point in attempting to break this one down stylistically, I get stumped, AK. I really do. Because 1 minute I feel like Israel's experience in this spot, one of the things you mentioned earlier, one of the big talking points, just in that cage, will this be enough of a difference? And I just think about how hard Alex Pereira hits, and you're giving him 25 minutes to land something big. And then I get there, and I'm like, all right, this could happen. I think, well, how's he going to get there? Is he just going to wait for him? Will Izzy be the aggressor? Will Pereira have to be the aggressor? And then I remember that if he is the aggressor, that's the most dangerous Adesanya actually is in these fights, is when someone is bringing the action to him. That's when he's at his best because he counters so sneaky and so well. And there's so many ways to look at it. My confidence is so low at every turn when it comes to picking this fight. And usually I feel pretty strongly about going one way or another, have some sort of vibe or whatever. And with this one, this is just a constant seesaw battle. I can't remember the last time, AK, that a fight made me ask so many questions ahead of it. So, what questions do you have? Are you having as hard of a time with this as I am?
See, my best friends, I gotta give you props. This is why we work so well together. I like the term seesaw because that's kind of what happened with the lead up to this fight. I remember when Pereira was coming up, once everyone started discovering, sort of the first 2 fights between them, suddenly it became, oh, well, Pereira's going to kill this guy if they ever meet. Look, without having watched the first 2 fights. And it was just when people learned of their existence and they saw the knockout, that's the one everyone saw. And then and he also beat him by a decision. So then there was suddenly this leading towards Pereira, maybe he's the guy at 185 to end the Adesanya reign. But now that, like you said, we have scrutinized this so much, we in the media, fans, other fighters. I remember Henry Cejudo, I think when the matchup was initially being talked about, was he just threw out some tweet, was like, oh, Pereira's going to kill this guy because he beat him twice in kickboxing. And then later apologized, Oh, I watched the 2 fights, by the way. I take back my initial analysis, and I'm like, yeah, that's what most people did. They watched the 2 fights, and now it's almost gone too far the other way. Now it's almost gone too far. Like, well, Izzy was robbed in the first fight, and Izzy was winning the second fight till he got knocked out. Like now that people are super confident that he's going to beat Pereira, and for me, I've just landed like right back in the middle. I'm like, that's what makes it so great. Is I really think it could go either way, and I guess the biggest question for me is, a lot of people are thinking, will Izzy mix the martial arts? Offensively, he has not shown off a lot of wrestling, has not shown off a lot of grappling. Why would he? He outstrikes everyone that he's fought. He has really good takedown defense. Like, he does mix the martial arts. He just does it defensively. Great takedown defense, great grappling defense. So you have seen it, but people are saying, will he take advantage possibly of, a less experienced MMA fighter? Maybe go mix in a takedown, maybe go for a submission, maybe show off some wrestling. Maybe we get some Francis Ngannou versus Ciryl Gane vibes, right? How crazy would that be if he just like out wrestled Alex Pereira for 5 rounds? I highly doubt that would happen, because again, it's not as if Alex Pereira is not training in MMA as well. I mean, again, maybe he's not as well rounded as Adesanya. We don't know, but I don't think it necessarily makes sense for Izzy to go away from his strength, even if that strength also happens to be the greatest strength of his opponent. So we could see. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a takedown. I think it'd be so fun if we saw like, ADCC Israel Adesanya suddenly. I just don't think that's going to happen. But that certainly is on my mind. That is on my mind. Every time I see like a maybe even like a fake takedown, I'm going to wonder like, man, is he going to do this? Is he going to change the game here and mix the martial arts? I mean, I'm not a fan normally, but it'd be kind of intriguing on Saturday.
What if Pereira shoots a takedown? Like, what if
Possible.
he lands a takedown early? I mean,
possible.
I don't expect that to happen, but you can't not learn a hell of a lot getting smushed by Glover Teixeira every single day in Danbury, Connecticut. Plus, they brought Dominic Reyes out, and he's a pretty good grappler. His submission skills are pretty strong, like much better than he gets credit for. He's worked with Wellington. Like, this dude, who knows? That's what makes this fight so fascinating, because you just don't know what's going to happen. Here's a question I have that I've been thinking about, and I saw it like in the promo before they actually went out for that final face-off, because the mental side of this fight is really interesting to me, because Pereira has the 2 wins. His confidence will be high, and we know Adesanya is always confident, but he does have a guy standing in front of him that does have 2 wins over him. Yes, it was kickboxing. Yes, it was in the past, but it's something that will be on your mind, especially if you got knocked out. It's probably been on his mind deep down since Pereira got signed. So Adesanya's been playing this off like, hey, listen, I moved on. I didn't even think about it again. It doesn't matter. But his body language and everything he has said this week tells me otherwise, because he is coming in seemingly with a massive chip on his shoulder to prove the doubters wrong. I feel like this means more to him than he's letting on. So let me ask you this. Let's say Adesanya goes on after this Pereira thing plays out, and he wins like his next 15 fights, and he goes up to 205, and he wins another belt, and he accomplishes the highest of highs in terms of accolades that this sport can offer. But he loses tomorrow. Doesn't get that win over Pereira. Do you think a guy as passionate about the sport as he is, a man who is so rich in history, student of the game, do you think he'll ultimately be okay with that, or that he won't be totally fulfilled?
It's hard for me to get into Izzy's head. How can you get into any fighter's head, really? But I think he could move past it. I think every fighter, most fighters anyway, even the greats, there's some opponents they just never got past. They just had their number. It would be strange and probably very troubling for Israel Adesanya if for some reason he just couldn't beat this guy. Again, a very accomplished kickboxer, a great fighter, but Izzy's fought a lot of great fighters and he's figured them all out. So to not be able to figure out one person, not counting Jan Blachowicz, but I mean that was a nice, pretty decent competitive fight actually. Yeah, it's a whole different thing, right? It doesn't have that history. Like I said, history is the word we keep bringing up when we're talking about this matchup, and it matters. It matters as much as Izzy has kind of said to the media that it's not something really personal. It's more about he's more focused on himself than Pereira. As much as he can say that to himself, I'm sure he and Coach Eugene and the team have said, listen, we're not focusing on the past. We're not focusing on what happened until you're actually in there. Until the moment is actually upon you. You don't. Or you said even after Mike. Let's say he does lose to him. There's no way to prepare for that. So I think Izzy is pretty mentally solid I don't think it would be like this career defining, like, oh, if only like the one that got away thing. But it's definitely something he'd never forget. But he's the kind of guy, I think he uses motivation. I don't think it brings him down. I don't think it ruins his legacy. He would use his motivation. So it would stick, but maybe in a positive way in the long run.
Oh, of course not. But I only asked that because he's a perfectionist. This dude is like, the Blachowicz thing, already understood. There's a lot that went into that. Kind of rushed up to a fight at 205. Didn't go his way. This is different in a lot of ways, and he's just a perfectionist. So even just talking about the aftermath of the Cannonier fight, and that was a dominant win, and he still was pretty hard on himself after the fact. So I mean, I don't think that this is the case. I don't think he's gonna be like, oh well, I can't be a Hall of Famer because I didn't beat Alex Pereira. I can't do this or this. Like, I think it'll probably stew on him at some point, but I don't think it's gonna like overtake his soul or anything like that. So I was just curious what you thought, since that's one aspect of the fight that hasn't really been talked about. But currently, and as we've gone live, the betting odds have shifted slightly. Went from -215 now to -210 for Israel Adesanya. Okay, comeback on Alex Pereira, +180. To me, this seems pretty accurate in theory. Does this feel right to you?
Yeah, that's where the odds should be. As again, I would love to see a longer history of the movement. I wonder if it's remained mostly steady, or if there was sort of these kind of dramatic peaks and valleys. Because again, when people were first looking at this, Pereira seemed like the perfect opponent. Then people went and watched the fights, and they're like, okay, he's still clearly a good opponent. He did beat him in 2 fights, but there's more to it than just the result. There's more to it than Pereira by unanimous decision, or Pereira by knockout. Even when you see the clip over and over and over again. So people are smart. People are, and like I said, are maybe now going the other way. Are maybe now saying, well, despite the fact that Izzy might have been winning the second fight, despite the fact that Izzy may have won the first fight, Pereira clearly presents some sort of problem for him. And even if you want to discount the previous fights, if you want to just look at Pereira's UFC work, I mean, listen, he's a great striker. We talk about the knockout power, but you don't become a 2-division kickboxing champion just on like wild power and just slugging it out. Like this guy has all the technique. He's huge. I mean, he is really big. The making the weight was a big deal this morning, and you know why. It's not like this is a guy who's struggling to make weight just for discipline reasons. It's because he is making a hard cut down from God knows what, above probably above 205 pounds down to 185. He's the kind of guy who he would not be cleared to fight in California. And I'm going to check. I don't think he's fought in California, but I bet if you saw the rehydration numbers, they would probably be, he's not fought in California. The numbers would probably be shocking. He'd get a hard, he would get a hard like letter from the CSAC telling him, yeah, you're not fighting at 205 in California again, buddy. You're sorry, at 185. You're going to 205. So the size definitely matters. But again, it isn't just size. It isn't just strength. He really does have great technique. So that's a part of the story, but that's not the whole story. It's really fascinating, and I can totally understand why there's more faith coming in on Pereira, because if it stays on the feet, man, I don't know how anyone can say with any confidence that either guy is going to necessarily dominate the action. I'm sure there's smarter people than I, much more experienced kickboxing analysts than I, who could tell you like why, like, oh well, this one thing this guy always does, this one thing this other guy always does, and that'll be the key to this matchup. I just think there's so many aspects to it that I am not willing to like strongly say myself that I guarantee a victory for either man.
Well, let's do our best here. We're not guaranteeing anything, but we'll give our picks. So, AK, does Adesanya get one back, or does Pereira move to 3-0 in the rivalry and become a UFC champion and just his 4th UFC fight?
A part of me wants to see it. Nothing against Adesanya. I just like chaos. I just think it'd be a crazy story. I don't know what my big thing is. We kind of had some internal Slack discussion. Like, I don't know what would happen to the pound for pound rankings, because Izzy, I think, is in the top 3 or top 4, 4 at lowest, I believe, in any of our own rankings. He's number 2, I think, consensus on our pound for pound right now, behind Alexander Volkanovski. If Pereira beats him, like, I again, it's the definition of what does pound for pound mean. We have to come into question again. It would just really, really mess things up, but I think in a really fun way. So as much as I hate to see our rankings like destroyed, it'd be an interesting question. It'd be a really, really fun discussion to say where does Pereira land there. So I am going by Izzy by decision. Maybe I'm just playing it safe. Maybe I don't want to see that the most chaotic timeline unfold. I think the size of the cage matters compared to fighting in a ring. It's very, very, very different. And I think that Izzy has certain advantages in the octagon that he didn't have in the ring. Where again, he did well against Pereira anyway. So I don't even think he needs to mix the martial arts that much. I know we said that's maybe something to keep an eye on, but I think even if it's just a striking battle, I still like Izzy to outpoint him. And in the later rounds, if he can frustrate him, maybe we see an Izzy finish that so many people have been calling for. But I'm going with slightly more well-received battle than some of the champions' defenses have been recently, and Israel Adesanya by decision.
Like I said, and it's a seesaw. I've been back and forth, and I can only go with what my gut is telling me, like right this second. I do think Adesanya wins, and not only that, I think he ends this fight before it goes to the cards. Like I think Pereira will have success. I think he will land. He might even drop Izzy at some point. But after a few rounds of like just not landing that monster knockout blow, that quick ass left hook that he lands, and those short little punches that are so sneaky, I think heading into the fourth round, he's just going to have to step up his game. He's going to have to be a little more aggressive. And I think Adesanya is ready for that. And I think he's going to take advantage of it. He's going to catch him down the stretch. So no confidence at all. But my gut right now is telling me Adesanya, fourth round TKO. But like I said, very, very, very little confidence.
I like that.
No one's that. Like very few are saying Adesanya finishes. Like they're saying it's not in play. I think it's very much in play here.
Yeah.
I think it's very much in play.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go to the co-main event, because New York's most heated fighter, for some reason, New York just doesn't like Carla Esparza. I mean, it's just been so crazy to watch, man. Even at the weigh-in, just getting booed out of the building, defending her strawweight title against the clear baby face of this one, Zhang Weili, the former champion. There have not been a lot of people cheering for Carla Esparza, as you've heard all week, and there's not a lot of people in this wonderful space of ours that are giving Carla much of a chance here, if any chance. A lot of one-way traffic talk. People just feel like this is a horrendous matchup for her. Do you feel the same way?
I mean, sometimes what's the Occam's razor, right? I feel like sometimes the most obvious answer is the answer, right? We can break it down all we want. We can talk about how, I've done it multiple times. Is Carla Esparza being overlooked? Is she being disrespected? You guys pointed out in another show, like she's definitely like a Hall of Famer. Like she almost has to be UFC Hall of Famer. If just the bottom line is 2-time UFC champion. I don't know if there's anyone, I'd have to check that, is a 2-time UFC champion who isn't in the Hall of Fame already or is guaranteed to be in the Hall of Fame in the future. Again, there's political reasons why, how people are selected to go into the Hall, but the title is has been pretty well respected so far, outside of a few names who we just know Dana White just doesn't like or has beef with. But Esparza has been a good company woman. And again, 2 titles plus just fighting the best of the best for the better part of the last decade. Ultimate Fighter winner. They like that. That always looks nice in a resume. So we say all these things, and then even giving her all this respect, like it's impossible not to respect her and say and mention her accolades. It's so difficult to pick her to win this matchup. It just feels like Zhang is a nightmare for her. An amazing athlete, super strong. And again, just like I was saying with Pereira, beyond the physical attributes, Zhang is an amazing boxer. Like has great boxing, just great all around skills. Really good. Like I think takedown and grappling defense. Like she might get taken down. I don't know what Carla can do with her down there and for how long, if she can even have sustained offense in the ground. So Carla, listen, if you're out there, listening to this for a reason, I look forward to being proven wrong. I was very happy she finally got her title shot with Rose Namajunas. I don't think anybody was happy with the fight itself. That's fine. But I was certainly happy to see Carla, not just get the title fight, but get a win. Nothing against Rose Namajunas. It was just a really cool story for Carla Esparza, who'd kind of been overlooked for a little bit, who really had to grind it out to get that second shot. So all the credit and respect in the world to her, but I'm with the majority of the people. I'll probably throw a poll just to see what people say, but I think everyone's leaning Zhang, and I'm not against it. I'm definitely leaning with the former champ to get a second title reign herself.
I know Jed and other handicappers, if you will, they're surprised at the betting line, but because they feel Zhang should be favored much heavier than -325, And statistically, AK, this would be like so far away from being the biggest upset in the UFC title fight, like from that perspective. But in the minds of fans, media, and honestly, every fighter that I've talked to about this fight, it just seems like no one's picking Carla. So, like, in your eyes, how stunned would you be if Carla won this fight? Like, how big of an upset, like in the AK upset system, would this be? Is this like a top 3 stunner for you, or are we that high?
No, it's nowhere near. It's nowhere near like Sarah GSP territory. It's nowhere near Pena Nunes 1 territory. None of that. It's a second tier. It's second tier. It's up there because in my mind, Mike, despite everything I've said, I do have this image of like we get the best possible version of Carla Esparza. We get maybe a slightly off night from Zhang Weili, and Esparza's wrestling just carries the day. And I'm talking like old school John Fitch, grind it out, just like hugging those hips. Just sticking Zhang Weili to the fence, mixing in a little ground and pound, kind of advancing position, but not doing just enough not to get stood up, and doing that for 25 minutes. It's that to me is the only route I see. If other people are predicting, I don't know, Esparza like a shock submission somehow, more power to you. I don't know what the odds are, but I think for any Carla finish, I would imagine is no lower than like plus 1200 or something like that. People just don't see that happening. Decision even is probably a long shot, but probably closer in the 500, 600 range. So I can see it. I can see how it can happen. You really cannot disrespect, again, wrestling, great cardio, and just the resilience that Esparza has shown. But if we're talking skill for skill, stand up, I just don't see Esparza lasting long at all. If it's contested on the feet for any amount of time, I just don't see how it lasts. And again, if she cannot get that wrestling going, I mean, she's just going to be taking punches for 25 minutes. So either she's going to get knocked out early, or it's going to be a lopsided decision, I think, in Zhang's favor. So again, for anyone out there betting Esparza, I mean, you're not super crazy. A+ wrestling. She's got A+ wrestling. We've seen a lot of champions win a lot of fights with just wrestling. I just don't think you can do that against Zhang.
So Esparza is a dog plus 270. Esparza by decision plus 450. Esparza by sub plus 1200.
Yeah, that's what
Esparza by KO, TKO, or DQ plus 1400.
Only?
So
really?
Yep.
That should be higher. That should be like plus
2,000. And all Weili methods are plus money.
TKO would be also like
120.
TKO would also be like an injury, right? If there was like a random injury, that counts as TKO, right? Oh, yep. So there you go. We've seen a lot of weirdness in big fights this year. I hope that does not happen. We just heard about poor Calvin Kattar. For anyone hearing about that, we got an upset in Calvin Kattar. ACL, right?
Torn ACL.
And he says expects to be back end of 2023. So fingers crossed, everyone, please. Nothing but positive thoughts for the fighters in UFC 281, and we get satisfying results in the 2 title fights and all the other fights.
I do like. I'm with you on that. Like, I'd be shocked if Carl wins this fight. It wouldn't be like all-time stunner, but I'd be shocked but it's not all time because I do feel like there are paths to victory here. I just don't know if the fight is going to last long enough for it to get there. To me, Carla has to win the first round. Maybe the second. Like, if it's the first round's competitive and she wins the second, she's got a shot. If she goes down 2-0 and makes it to the third, it is not good. But if she could steal like the first round and extend this thing, she does have a chance to win. But with Zhang Weili, that is asking a lot. So, listen, I think Weili gets her out of there in the second round. I just think her strength, her power, her athleticism, Zhang's well-roundedness. And I don't even know if, like, Carla might be an A+ wrestler, but I don't even know if she's better than Zhang, like, with MMA wrestling. I don't know. I think there's a case to be made that it's closer than people think. I just feel like this is a nightmare matchup for her. I do also feel like the female fighter of the year may very well come down to the result of this fight. Because if Esparza wins, she wins hands down, in my opinion. There's no other option. You beat Rose to win the belt, and then you beat Zhang Weili. When no one thinks you're going to win, you're getting my vote. And Zhang has a great case too, knocking out Joanna Jędrzejczyk and then winning the title back. She's in there as well. So what was your official pick?
I'm going Zhang by a second round knockout. So
yeah,
Friends forever. I guess we had a little friends forever moment.
A little double F. We'll save the
I'm
singing
afraid
is
we
only
can't.
for.
Listen, I'm afraid to
Yeah.
sing anything. We should know we've had some monetization issues, hopefully resolved. I'm afraid to sing anything now, Mike. I'll be honest with you on these shows.
Yeah, we'll save that for on to the next one, listeners. We haven't had any issues with that show. I don't know why.
You know, not
And then
to
of
touch
course
it.
we have, because the production quality is way lower than these shows. Dustin Poirier versus Michael Chandler is happening. Let's touch on this, and then we'll do one more thing, and then we'll go to the peeps. I've said this a few times. This fight in a vacuum, the matchup, everything, it's phenomenal. It's fire. And I'm not an idiot. It's the front runner for the fight of the night. Like, I totally understand the excitement behind this. But AK, in terms of this division and trying to give it a fresh coat of paint, give us some new faces, I'll put it this way. If they paired each guy up with a different fighter that's on the come up, one of these killers on the rise that we talk about so much, like, I'd be all for it. But I don't like this fight for the division. And the biggest reason why is because what is probably at stake here? Because to me, the stakes in this fight should not be as high as they are. Again, the fight is awesome, and we're going to watch it. We're going to enjoy it. We're going to have a watch party, watch along live on the YouTube channel. We can all watch it together and just go crazy for it. And it's going to rule. Like, I fully expecting this fight to rule. I'm not debating that fact at all. But the end of it, I think we'll remember for a little while how great it was. And then I think we're going to have an epiphany. I think for the short term, we're going to be like, yay, this is awesome. Long term, we're going to be like, why? You know what I mean? I love the fight's great, but I just feel like there's so much more at stake than there should be for this fight.
Yeah, I think we'll have that sobering moment, Mike, as you mentioned, when we do Otno, when we sit down, do our Otno picks and do our live Otno show on Sunday, when we realize, like, yeah, it's as fun as the fight probably will end up turning out to be, like, how little it leaves us to really talk about, depending on the winner. Again, as we've said, Michael Chandler does, he's kept his call-outs consistent. He's trying to keep his name in the Islam Makhachev sweepstakes. Definitely trying to keep his name in the Conor McGregor sweepstakes. He's been doing that for Lord knows how long, for like 18 months now. I don't know, however long he's been in the UFC, and wisely so. Poirier, I'm not quite sure. Obviously, I think he thinks he beats Chandler. Keeps up there in talks to fight Makhachev. But yeah, it is a bit frustrating to sort of see a squatter versus squatter matchup. I was just looking at our rankings. So of the top 5 guys, it's kind of like Islam. Islam didn't have to fight any of them. That's fine, except Charles Oliveira. And then Oliveira and Poirier and Dariush, Gaethje. They're kind of, and now Chandler at number 6. They're kind of like, they're just kind of in this weird mix where they won't fight anyone outside of that. Also, a lot of them beat up Tony Ferguson, which is kind of messed up. I'm looking at like a lot of these guys like held onto their spot or bumped, just by bumping poor Tony Ferguson down. So, I want to believe. Hey, listen, like I said, Mike Chandler, maybe he wins, cuts an A+ promo, has us instead totally change our minds. Like, oh man, he should get that fight with Islam next instead of Volkanovski. I sincerely doubt that's going to happen, but you never know. Listen, Michael Chandler has talked himself into a lot of things, and these big knockouts just resonate with people. If he doesn't get Makhachev, I think we mentioned maybe he gets the, maybe he fights Beneil Dariush, something like that. Either way, keeps himself right there, right in that top 3, top 4 range, just one big win away from a title fight. So, I don't know. Listen, I know it sounds like we're being a little negative, but we just want to, just remind people that sometimes these fights, which are great and will be great on paper, and that's all that should matter, especially for the live crowd. The live crowd, they're gonna be drunk off their asses. They're not caring about it's Dustin Poirier gonna tell the shots, Michael Chandler. They just want to see these two guys bludgeon each other, and
right.
that very likely will be what we get, unless, Mike, there's a lot of mixing from the martial arts from Mr. Michael Chandler, possibly.
That's true. Hey, listen, if the prize at the end was a fight with Conor McGregor, you got no issues with me. I'm in. Like, I'm totally cool if they do the Dustin fight.
Sure.
Although I think I know how that would play out. If they want to go Conor versus Chandler, the fight's going to be awesome. Like, I'm totally in on that too. I just don't want to see Beneil Dariush get hopped over by one of these guys. Not that they're
Right.
not great, because they're great fighters.
Yeah.
There's other guys that deserve the opportunity to get to the same place at this point. And I just feel like it's going to take forever for these guys to get there. It took Beneil Dariush like 10 fights to get to where he's at right now. And he still really hasn't moved too much because he's got the featherweight champion going past him. And I give him some of that blame as well, but I'm not going to go down that road. But Rest of the big card. Go ahead.
Imagine Chandler getting 2 title fights before Beneil Dariush gets like 1. Like, how messed up would that be?
That'd be crazy.
Messed up, right?
But it could happen. It very well could happen.
Easily.
Absolutely. Rest of the big card, Frankie Edgar, final fight, taking on Chris Gutierrez. Dan Hooker versus Claudio Puelles. Speaking of 155ers, he's getting somewhat of an opportunity, but if he goes out there and just submits Dan Hooker, he's going to be waiting a year and he's waiting like 4 years to fight a top 5 guy if he keeps winning. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy. I love the fight. It's going to be fantastic, but
Picking Hooker.
I do want to see. Ooh, all right. So let's go low key. We'll go to the peeps. Low key fighter storyline outside of the majors.
Is this for the peeps?
This is for you.
Oh, this is for me. Okay, I was gonna. Okay, I'll throw that question up there, and I'm just gonna throw something in the chat. Anyway, I am so. There's so many good ones. I don't want to. I'll narrow it down to 2. And these are definitely more fights that are the storyline as opposed to necessarily. I think they're going to be bangers. They both could be very good fights. I really want to know what Dominic Reyes looks like now. I'm glad he took the time off. Listen, the three tough losses. I'm counting the John Jones loss because, the mental toll it must have taken to go 5 rounds with arguably the greatest fighter of all time, feel pretty confident that you won, and then to just have that not be the case, to see the other man's hand raised. I don't know how you recover from that. I guess people say, well, it would have been nice if he just gone and won the vacant title when he had the chance, but it's easier said than done. Jan Blachowicz is a great fighter too, and then just running into the train that is Yuri Prochazka. I'm glad he took time off. Whatever the reasons is, I'm not sure, Mike. Is he nursing injury or just sort of taking time, right?
I think it was just like a reflect. I mean, he got annihilated by Yuri Prochazka. That was one of the most brutal knockouts I've ever seen. Yeah. So probably just needs some time to get over that. Find his why, if you will, and just get that light switch back on. And then he was off to the races, made some changes, headed over to Danbury, Connecticut with Glover and them. And it seems to have done wonders for him. He's predicting Dom 2.0 tomorrow, AK.
Yeah. And listen, we hear fighters say this all the time, but I'm inclined to believe it because I think he is a really talented guy. I don't think losing to John Jones, Jan Blachowicz, and Yuri Prochazka suddenly says, oh, well, this guy is never going to be a contender. Like, again, that's 3 champions. He lost to 3 UFC light heavyweight champions. How can we say he's a bad fighter? He doesn't have a lot of mileage on him for MMA. I mean, it's 15 pro fights. Again, he's been in some tough ones. He's had some tough knockouts. But I mean, I could see Reyes had like the next 4 years of his career still having a very, very good run. And I don't know, maybe fighting for a title again. But again, I have to see how he looks on Saturday. That's probably why that fight fascinates me so much. And then, of course, Molly McCann, Aaron Blanchfield. I have been pretty I've been on both sides of this as far as saying I think Molly McCann is better than people think, and I think Aaron Blanchfield is. I think people need to pump the brakes a little bit on Aaron Blanchfield because of her age, and I want to see her in a war. I want to see her in a competitive fight against an experienced fighter like Molly McCann. Skill wise, seems like a easy matchup for Aaron Blanchfield. Amazing grappler. But I think Molly McCann's gotten better there. I think she can get out of situations without just getting totally neutralized by Aaron Blanchfield. Maybe I'm wrong. I'll give Aaron Blanchfield a lot of credit if she is able to just completely dominate in the ground, even if she doesn't finish, because she's had fights already in the UFC where she's dominating the ground and didn't finish. And I won't hold that against her if that happens again, because I think Molly McCann is so tough. She's been submitted before, fine. But again, when you're only 23 years old and you're facing someone again who's as tough as Molly McCann is, who can hit pretty hard for a 125er, you're going to prove a lot to me if you can get out of this situation. So I know Aaron Blanchfield's a big favorite, and people are just saying oh well, she this is just someone for her to get her name off of. But I don't look at it that way at all. I think it's a validating fight for both athletes potentially. Obviously, Molly McCann can silence a lot of the people who think she's just been getting favorable matchups in London, close to Liverpool. I shouldn't say close. My UK geography is terrible. I think you guys know what I mean. It's I'm a North American. It's in the same country. I assume they're right next to each other. But yeah, English crowd, very pro Molly McCann crowd. So people saying she's just a product of hype and good marketing. Hey, maybe she is, but we get to find out on Saturday. That's what's great about fighting. I think both women have a lot to gain, and honestly, won't be. Mike, you and I have talked about this. Won't be devastated their career prospects by a loss. They both have things to directions to go, even if they lose. Again, Aaron Blanchfield, only 23 years old. Molly McCann, I think, an attraction for the UFC in England for at least 2 or 3 more years.
Molly, I mean, you see like short notice opponents, and we talk about the risk reward, just everything to gain, nothing to lose, took this fight on a week's notice. I feel like that's Molly McCann, like on a full training camp. Everything to gain here. Like if she goes out there and finishes Erin Blanchfield, she is in the mix for just nothing but massive fights in this division. Like if the UFC wanted to just throw her into a title fight with Valentina, they could do it, and not a lot of people would argue with that, because there's just nobody there right now. And she's a massive, massive draw right now, especially when they go back to the UK. And if she loses, like she's the biggest underdog on the card. So it's like not the end of the world. She'll still be Molly McCann, the one that we all enjoy watching and listening to. And she'll still be a big star in the UK, and she'll still be very popular here. Like, I don't think a loss hurts her that much, but a win is gigantic. And then for Erin Blanchfield, a loss doesn't hurt her that much either, because she's 23. She can come back. And a win could be a potential eye-opener for a lot of people who aren't really aware of who she is. So, yeah, I love the match made. I think it's the best match made fight on the entire card outside of the main event. Otman Zaitar Mafrovola is going to be absolutely insane. I can't wait for that one. I think Karolina Kowalkiewicz, Silvana Gomez Juarez will be a lot of fun. And low-key for me, if you're on to the next one, listener, you know how very high I am on Montel Jackson as a up-and-comer at 135. Happy to see him back for the first time in over a year, taking on Julio Arce. Very interested to see how he looks. So let's go to the peeps, Casey. Bring in Casey Live in the Batistache in MMA. There he is.
There he is. Look at him.
Hi, everybody. Oh, it's kind of bright in here.
I will tell people to send in their questions now. Yeah. Oh, by the way, the poll, 70% Zhang. So, I mean, not as lopsided as I thought. That's
true.
I guess it's pretty bad for it's the challenger.
That's the champ. What do you mean? That's crazy lopsided. Esparza is the champion.
Well, we said on Tapology.
Tapology is 92%.
92. That is lopsided.
I think that's accurate. I think that's perfectly accurate. I think you guys. I mean, yeah.
But 70% in the vote. It's like that's like a little lower than the actual betting win probability. Right. A little more respect in the poll, I think.
Hey, listen, our YouTube fans, they know what they're talking about, all right? They're an educated bunch.
All right, questions.
All right, I'm just reminding people to send in questions. All right, people. Now is the time. Spam your questions.
Listen, we'll take a few because we're going to jump back on here tomorrow, right before the first fight, for like almost an hour. And that's all we're going to do is take questions. So we'll get to a few, and then we'll take them all tomorrow.
Someone said, where do we sit?
This is the craziest line on the card, actually, is the... Oops.
Frankie wrestled Cheeto for 2.5 rounds. Am I crazy for thinking he has an even better chance to wrestle Gutierrez for the full 3, given how massive of a dog he is odds-wise? So if we're going to... I don't like this. I don't love this fight at all. Like, it's okay. I was hoping for something more for Frankie Edgar, but...
You don't guess because Gutierrez isn't a name, really. It's not. It's just an opponent.
I just don't. Yeah, I mean, I just don't think a win. Yeah, I just don't think a win means that much for him. Like, it gives him a number, but he's just. It almost hurts him more because people are gonna be like, "Oh, you're the jerk who retired Frankie Edgar with a loss," and like that's what he's gonna be known for. So it's fine. Like it's okay. But Frankie, I guess the best thing about this fight is that Frankie can win this fight. This is a winnable fight for Frankie.
He should be the favorite. I think Frankie should be the favorite. I don't understand why he's such an underdog. Like, tell me
why.
I'll tell you why.
I'll tell you guys why. Do you guys want to know why?
Why?
He's 41 years old.
Is that all we're going on?
It's a big factor.
All right.
It's a big factor. It shouldn't be everything. Listen, age
before
beauty.
It's part of it.
Age before beauty. Yeah. He's 10 years older than Chris Gutierrez. We're all envisioning a scenario where he gets off to a fine start. He wasn't like getting killed in the Cheeto fight, if I remember, until he got killed. And that's the thing is Gutierrez does not have like the reputation. He had a nice knockout in his last fight, but doesn't have the reputation of like a home run hitter that like Cheeto has. But he can finish, man. I mean, and again, when we're talking about he's 10 years older than him. Excuse me. It sucks. It sucks to say because we still see the skills that he has. Just look at Tony Ferguson. We saw it the first round with Michael Chandler. The skills are obviously there. These guys know how to fight. These guys are in great shape for their age. But at the end of the day, you are still 41, someone in combat. And that's in just human years. Think about how many fights and wars Frankie has been in. And again, unfortunately, we've seen, some of those returns in a negative way in his recent losses. Now, again, you're right. We shouldn't assume that that's what will happen. But if you're talking about like why the odds are the way they are, why he's an underdog, boy, it's hard to bet on.
It sounds like
it's hard to bet against.
It sounds like you could put any person weighing 135 pounds, and you would pick them to beat Frankie Edgar.
There's
I feel
a
like
lot of
the way people are talking about Frankie is like he's just walking corpse in there that just happened to be 135 pounds.
I mean, there's a lot of Chris Gutierrez is really good. Chris Gutierrez is not just a body. Let's be straight here.
Was he top 30?
He's a top 30 guy. Yeah. I think I'd put him in my top.
He's unbeaten in his last 7 fights.
Yeah, it's hard to say bantamweight because if you're top 30 at bantamweight, that's like being like top 20 in another division because bantamweight is so deep. You know what I mean? It's so deep. Probably top 30. Yeah,
in the sport.
It's definitely. I think it's the deepest. Yeah, even if people still want to say lightweight is the best, like I think bantamweight is the deepest right now. Especially if you're going across all promotions. It's like holy crap! Like it's pretty. Yeah, I have Chris Gutierrez at 28 in my rankings, but again, it's a very tight. Like the range between him and 20 is not that far. It's just a number thing. So yeah, I think you could take anyone in the top 30. They're probably going to be favored against Frankie. This is my favorite fighter ever. Why are you making me say this?
I guess the last 3 opponents, even 6, 7 opponents, 8 opponents, 9 opponents that Frankie has fought, I think all demolish Gutierrez in the same way. That's what. Well, you don't think you think Vera? You think he does better against Vera than?
I don't know if they demolish him in the same way. I know what you're saying. They would beat him. I would pick most of those opponents, but I mean that's.
Would you pick Pedro Munoz to beat Gutierrez?
I don't know. It'd be pretty close.
That's crazy, man. Yeah. Okay, all right.
He's also old. I mean, young. I mean, 36 years young.
All right.
We'll see. I like the fight. I think Frankie can win. I actually think this fight is going to be like the more I thought about it, I still don't love the matchmaking because I don't think it does a ton for Gutierrez if he wins this fight. I think it hurts him in a lot of people's eyes just because it's Frankie. But I think if you look at it stylistically, this is going to be a fun friggin' fight because Frankie's going to leave everything in that cage, and Gutierrez is one of those guys that just keeps attacking, just keeps coming forward and keeps pressuring. He's not a fast starter, but he gets better as the fight goes, and Frankie's the exact same way. So I think, like, come stretch time, if we get to 3, that final 5 minutes is going to be a dogfight. So I think this is going to be a fun fight.
I think it's going to be more fun than people think.
Gutierrez
is the wrong person for Frankie's final fight. That's all.
I agree. I was not thrilled. I was not thrilled to see this matchup. Not necessarily because I thought Frankie was going to lose, but like you said, just sort of the name and where they are, and it's like it's felt a bit like a strange choice. Yeah.
Like if you were going to give a surging out, like if you're going to give kind of a surging contender the rub, and I hate to say this because we do want to see Frankie. Like Adrian Yanez would have been a much better choice in this situation. You know what I mean? Just because the UFC's already building him up. Mm-hmm. And then he's got the Tony Kelly win. He got a huge rub off of that. And then if he goes out there and just has a good fight with Frankie, respects him the whole way, and then just beats him, like I think it does more for him than it does for a guy like Chris.
Agree. Yeah, and I'm not against giving bad fights. I mean, tough fights for guys on their way out because I kind of like the Japanese MMA way of thinking. Like you go out on not a stretcher, but you go out losing when you retire. That's kind of how it is. But I just don't. Yeah. Yanez. I think Yanez is a much more appealing fight. But here we are. And I was just more shocked at the line. Really, I was just kind of shocked at. But
Gutierrez is just.
But AK agrees. AK he's 41. He's 41.
Yeah, so. He's a Gutierrez is the
combat
quintessential Gutierrez is a damage bar fighter. Like if you're gonna do a damage bar on these UFC cards, like Gutierrez is the perfect guy to be like your foil for it because he just wears on you with those kicks to the body, the legs. And you can prepare for him all you want, and he's like what he's gonna do, and he still does it, and it's been really hard to stop. So,
Casey, let me answer one real quick. You don't have to put this one on the screen. Caleb Kai Tora saying, "Why does Alex say he doesn't like the mixing of the martial arts? What the hell is that all about?" First of all, hashtag keep the martial arts apart. Secondly, if God intended for the martial arts to be mixed, he would have made them that way. So there we go. That's all it. That's all I'm going to say. Sorry, I know, very controversial. Cancel me. Very controversial take. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm gonna go. I know I have lots of questions, but this is a question I want to ask you guys.
Ooh.
You mentioned earlier that the winner, or you said if Carla wins, or she could be female fighter of the year, most likely, right? Or maybe even Zhang wins. I'm not sure.
If Carla wins, she wins hands down.
Hands
in
down.
my opinion.
What about the main event? To me, either winner is most likely the male fighter of the year.
Oh.
It's very
If Izzy
possible.
wins, that's 3. Especially if he wins dominantly, that'll be 3 dominant championship. What's the word I'm looking for?
Defenses.
Yeah,
Yes.
defenses. Sorry. And Max Pereira wins, obviously. 3-0 this year, and kind of coming from MMA obscurity to beating, not the GOAT, but a all-time middleweight great. So is the main event up for male fighter of the year?
It's possible, man. You can make a case for both guys. I think if Pereira wins, he's probably the pick. I think he kind of has to be.
Such a fun pick. It'd be so fun to write about.
Adesanya has a case too.
That's
Adesanya
so dominant.
I have a hard time. I have a hard time getting Volk's title defenses out of my brain because those are 2 of the all-time best defenses we've ever seen. Just straight dominance. He pitched 2 perfect games against 2 very tough individuals. He did to Max Holloway. No one has ever done that to Max Holloway, where you just shut him out. It just dominated him. That was even as highly regarded as I was after that I treated the Korean Zombie title defense. The one over Max, after like watching it a couple of times, it's just a masterpiece. And I don't know if Izzy goes out there if he just trucks Pereira and finishes him, like really just puts a stamp on it. It's in the mix, but Volk's gonna be tough to beat for me.
All right.
He's in the mix. He's in
Islam love in there.
top
Maybe not number 1.
I think I'll
Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards has a case too,
right?
Wait,
knockout of the year.
Wait,
right?
one fight?
Knockout of the year.
Fights? What is it?
Just one. Just the one.
Just one fight?
Just the one.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, he's getting both. I guarantee you, he's gonna be in our top 5. He'll be in our
top 5 for that kick, but here we go. Yeah, our friend Forrest Daniels.
Ooh.
Sheesh. I mean, I hate to say it, but I don't. Is there a lock?
I was gonna say
I have
outside.
like a lock per se.
Okay.
But I feel like Zhang is the most confident pick I have on the whole card.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Zhang. So let me think. Outside of Zhang. Oh, this is a really well matched up card. Like this is a really well matched up card. You know what? No, I'll say it. I'll go
with Montel Jackson. I'll go with Montel Jackson.
Really? That was one of my toughest.
I feel like he's gonna beat Julio Arce.
I'm gonna say I'm a believer in Nico Negumereanu. I think that would be my other
a lock. That's a lock.
Wow.
A lock of the night. Wow.
Listen,
Wow.
I'm not dazzled by Carlos Ulberg's flawless chin and godlike physique. Okay, as magnificent as it is, I still think there's a bit of smoke and mirrors there, and I think Nico's legit. I think Nico is a legit contender. Again, the lock is Zhang Weili. If you're really like, I had $20, I had to pick one fight, it's Zhang Weili over Carlos Esparza. No question. But I just want to go outside that because we've talked about that a lot. I think I'd go Nico. My other one, maybe Andre Petrosky. But Turman's a bit of a wild card. Like, I don't think Wellington Turman is bad. I think Andre Petrosky is really good. I think that's my thing. I'm very high on Petrosky as like being a top 15 guy at some point in 2023. But I think like Wellington Turman is sneaky. So I'll stick with Nico. I think Nico Negumereanu is my non-Zhang Weili lock. But don't bet on MMA, please.
All right. Anything else?
Mine's
we're doing an hour this more.
Mine's Aaron Blanchfield, or Zhang and Aaron Blanchfield, locks. Yeah.
You'd pick Casey. You would pick Aaron Blanchfield against Godzilla. We already know this. She can fight anybody. You're picking her.
Well, if
Molly
McCann's nickname is Godzilla, then yeah, sure.
The only thing is my thing with Blanchfield is I feel a little bit the way I feel about her as Tatiana Suarez going to the Nina Ansaroff fight. Not that I'm saying Molly McCann is Nina Ansaroff, but I do think I remember when there was like Tatiana was going to destroy Nina Ansaroff, And we saw like kind of how much she had to round out her game. So that's what I'm saying. Before we anoint anyone as like, oh, there's definitely going to be a champion. I think that's about Mikhaev too, by the way. Let's see. I need to see them just test it a little bit. I need to see them in a real scrap. Like, so that's kind of where I am with it. But I get it. I wouldn't bet against Aaron.
Way to go out on a limb. Way to go out on a limb. It's like,
hey,
they need to prove everything first before I say anything about them.
Yes. What I said this many times on many shows. What is the rush to predict things? I don't understand. What is like? You don't get a cookie for like. Oh, I was right about.
Are we predicting fights here? Aren't we previewing the fight card? Aren't we talking about that?
Here's how much money I made.
Who do you have in the main event? Hey,
here's
I'm
how much
here to predict things.
Listen. Here's how much money I made, and here's how like here's how much money I made from predicting that Charles Oliveira would win the lightweight title and defend it against Poirier and defend it against Gaethje. Zero. Predictions are great. Oh, great. They're fun. Nobody cares. I'm sorry. Nobody cares. I mean, they're fun to listen to. I'm glad people are with us and we love your predictions, listeners. I'm glad you listen to ours. But like, I don't know what the rush is to be like, Mikhaev's going to be a 2-division champion or Aaron. These people are so young. They're so young. How many times do we need to see people in combat sports like hit this wall? Like we've seen it a million times. We've seen the opposite too. We certainly see some people live up to their potential and just run right through that wall. But I don't understand what the rush is to be like, anyone who says so-and-so isn't going to be a future champion is crazy.
Remember the hype? Remember the hype after Izzy's first fight in the UFC, or even when he got signed?
Sure.
It's like there was a reason. There's a reason.
There was. He's a much different case than a Mikhaev or Aaron Blanchfield.
Izzy was pretty unexperienced in MMA coming in. Izzy was very inexperienced in MMA coming in.
Coming to the UFC? What was he coming to the UFC? He was at least... What was he? 12 and 10, 12, 11, 11 and 0. 11 and 0, yeah.
He was 11 and 0? Oh, I thought he was around 4 or 5.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, but you could say counting Mikhaev's like amateur experience. I guess technically he's more experienced than Izzy was coming into.
And that's why Mikhaev has a lot of hype behind him because of all the amateur experience. Yeah.
Sure. Yes, true. His pro record does not tell his story.
I don't like this question, but long-time user, so I'm gonna throw it up there. Long-time commenter.
Does Carla Esparza hold all the power if she beats Zhang Weili? It's still crazy that all Weili had to do was beat a retired Joanna to get the title shot. No. No. The answer is no.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's downplaying also the very close fight that Zhang had with Rose, the second fight. It's not like say it's all she did was beat a retired Joanna is not the case.
Joanna was not retired. She trained for a fight against Weili, and they got knocked out cold. Then Joanna was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna call it a day. This wasn't a retirement fight for Joanna.
And it wasn't like everyone was saying. I know going to that fight, there were smarter people than me picking Joanna to win that fight. That thought Joanna had a chance to win.
Easily.
Yeah. So it was not. It's easy now. We see like the knockout. We're like, oh yeah, again a retired Joanna and she killed. Oh, by the way, I thank you, Joseph Boza, for the question. We're not giving you crap. We're just like it's not you. It's that now I know there's a lot of people who are kind of saying that same kind of thing that like, oh, what did Zhang really do? It's like she beat like the greatest strawweight of all time. She knocked her ass out. She beat her twice.
Yeah.
Maybe the second version of her again wasn't the same one that went to war with her the first time, but
maybe that was a much better version of Zhang.
Yeah, a very very high level fighter who, by the way, and we talked about this on other shows. If she was paired up with Carla Esparza, there's people who would pick Joanna to beat Carla Esparza. So that win not mean that win does not. That win still holds a lot of weight.
Listen, the answer to your question is if Carla Esparza wins, she's fighting Amanda Lemos, 100%. That's what's happening.
Yeah. And we think if she loses, she might fight Amanda Lemos.
Right? I'm picking. She's fighting Amanda Lemos no matter what. You're right. That was my auto pick.
Yeah, she might end up fighting Amanda Lemos.
Win or lose, she's fighting Amanda Lemos.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what it means hold all the power because I think as a champ, she'll still have very relatively little power, even as a
call
champ.
the shots. Maybe I don't think she's gonna have any. Honestly.
Yeah, I agree.
If Zhang gets on the microphone and calls out Rose Namajunas, if she wins, that's not power. That's just the fight they're going to make anyways. But she'll have more of a swing, if you will, than Carla will.
She's going to get booed out of the building if she calls for that third Rose fight.
So it depends. It depends how obviously she'll win, and depends how she wins though. If it's
no Zhang, Zhang wins. She's calling her Rose.
Oh, Zhang.
Okay. I'm sorry, Mark. Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
Carla. Yeah,
That makes
please don't. Yeah, don't do that, Carla. Don't.
Poor Carla. What did Carla do?
Let it simmer a little bit. Just let it simmer a little bit. Go fight Amanda Lemos.
Let Rose get another win, and so we can kind of wipe that taste away, and then they can eventually do the trilogy, I think. But you can't. I don't think you can't run it straight back with Rose the very next fight. That was just
no.
Even if Zhang, if she wins, I really hope. I hate champions defending against people off losses. I just hate that, and that's what it would be if Rose gets a title shot. So we'll see.
I feel that.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I kind of know the answer to this, but we.
Yeah. I saw
Dan
that.
Hooker fighting for his job in the UFC if he loses 0-3 in his last 3-1 and 5 in his last 6.
Nope.
What do you think, AK?
I want to hear Casey. Casey, you said pretty strongly no.
Yeah, big no.
Yeah, I say no as well.
Big no. A big no.
I agree. He won't. He definitely won't be released right away. I don't think he's gonna be released right away. Islam was what, short notice, right?
Yeah, it's on short notice.
Short notice. Arnold Allen should not have gone. He was just ill-fated. Just again, that was just kind of a weird. He kind of said as much in on the MMA hour. We were talking to Ariel. So sort of like, no one stopped me from dropping down to 145, but it wasn't like encouraged. I think he was saying like they kind of just like, I wanted to do it, and they just kind of said like, okay, right, listen, that's fine.
And like you want to talk his losing streak, and he won a fight in between. He beat a quality opponent with Nasrat. So he lost to Arnold Allen, top 5 potential title contender. Lost to Islam Makhachev, the best
champion.
Lost to Michael Chandler, top 5. Dustin Poirier, former champ, top 5. I mean, come on. It's like now if he loses to Puelles, his next fight, however, that's another story. But as far as his UFC job is not on the line tomorrow night.
I don't think so. But it'll be one more after. Yeah, it'll be one more. Yeah.
He's still popular, and beating Dan Hooker still means something right now.
We've been talking so long. Scott McCray has to get out of here. So
yes,
bye, Scott McCray.
Bye, Scott. Yeah, I think we gotta listen. I have to literally hop on a plane in 12 hours. So
okay,
we got a lot going on.
Let me see what else we got.
This is your chance.
What's our favorite prelim on the ones, for the casuals who only tune in for the main fights? You go, hey, guys.
Are we talking like lower prelim? Lower prelims?
Let's go, beyond the bottom half of the card.
I'll say 1, 2, 3, 4. I think, man, I love the Jackson RSA fight. I'm going with a Zaitar Frivola because that is just going to be ridiculous.
That's good stuff.
It's just slamming fists and faces till somebody falls. That's what that fight's going to be. I already know what case he's going to pick. But it's not a bad pick either, by the way.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Carolina versus Selena Gomez. No, Silvana
Gomez. She would definitely be Selena Gomez. Yeah.
Selena Gomez.
That fight would not be at the prelims if it was Selena Gomez.
Silvana Gomez Juarez. She's looked great in her first 2 fights in the UFC. She looks like she has like heavy hands, and Carolina likes to bang. So I think that's gonna be just an exciting brawl. Hopefully. We'll see. That's the prelim fight, I think. And I think it's going to be kind of a coming out party for Juarez.
Oh, do you? Oh, I'm picking Carolina.
No. Oh, that's fine. I mean, yeah. But
I like the RSA Jackson fight. Well, sorry, Casey, can I squeeze one in from Twitter? Yes. Someone DM'd me a question, actually. I meant to read it. This is from our pal, Javon Johnson. It's kind of a strange question, but maybe a good one. It's so bizarre. Maybe it's a good one to be one of our last few questions here. So he says, Javon says, if Izzy slaps a sub on Pereira halfway through round 1 and I guess finishes him with a submission, will MMA fans discredit Izzy's win because it wasn't a striking battle? I think we could see a side of Izzy we've never seen. He could backpack Pereira and make him look like he doesn't belong. Ooh. I'll tell you something. It sounds like there are some. Javon, it's a strange question. I guarantee you, though, some fans would say that. Some fans would say, "Oh, he was scared to strike with him. He was scared to strike with him."
Will there be some? Yeah, there'll be some, but that won't be like.
I'd be the.
It won't be like 276. It won't be like 276 when like the majority of people thought and I don't agree with this, by the way. I defended Adesanya after UFC 276. I was not part of the majority.
Who's the opponent that one?
That was the Cannonier fight. And everyone was like, "Oh, he's just a boring fighter," and and people were leaving the building and all that stuff. Like, that's different than you just going out and flash subbing somebody. Like, I think the reaction would just be nuts. It'd be not like Yuri against Glover, but it would be pretty close. Where it'd just be like, wow, I can't believe that just happened.
People left the building because Izzy is so gosh darn dominant and so smart defensively. That's why they left the building. Because they knew it was like, well, Cannonier is not going to take a chance. He's not willing to get knocked out. So we know it's going to happen. That's why it was boring. It wasn't boring because of Izzy, you know. But
let me say because if that happened, that would be amazing. And the way Twitter is now, anyone can buy a check mark. If you see a tweet from a verified Alexander K. Lee account, first of all, make sure like the L in there isn't like a uppercase I or one or something, and it would say something to the effect of like hashtag keep the martial arts apart, Izzy, you coward, or something. That's not me. Okay, that's not really me. It probably sounds like something I would tweet. Please do not retweet that. Don't at me if you think that but I could see that reaction. And I admittedly would think it was very funny if someone, and flattered if someone did that to me. But no, I don't think the reaction would be that negative. You're always going to have haters. You're going to have some wackadoodle out there who's like, oh yeah, he didn't want to strike with them. He knew he couldn't beat him on the feet, so he mixed the martial arts. But I think most of us are like, holy crap, Izzy just submitted this guy. But I don't know. I'm optimistic.
He MMA'd in an MMA fight. Yeah, what a jerk.
I'm optimistic.
But hey, Izzy, by the way, Izzy lied in the pre-fight build-up. He kept calling himself a white belt. He's not a white belt. He's a purple belt. He got a purple belt under freaking Andre Galvao like just a couple years ago.
Mind games.
Izzy's actually like he's actually a pretty decent jiu-jitsu player. He just doesn't need to use it in fights. He just hasn't had to yet. But I would honestly, as much as I want to see a knockout, I would love the storyline of him just backpacking Pereira and then choking him out or whatever.
It'd be cool.
I would love that. And wouldn't we think even more highly of Izzy? Like we're like, oh, no, like because I think even like the other really good middleweight, Anderson Silva, every once in a while when he went to the ground, it turns out, oh my God, he's actually a super good jiu-jitsu player too. It's just that's not his go-to. It's not what his preferred way of damage. So, I would love to see that actually.
I wouldn't be against it. I wouldn't be against it.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see the same kind of fight as the Cannonier fight.
No.
And by the way, let me just one last thing on this. If Steph Curry has a wide open three, he's going to take the damn three. Like that's his thing. If you just be like, okay, you're just going to leave me wide open, he's going to shoot the three. He's not going to dribble behind his back and just play games and then do like a triple jump moonsault slam dunk because that's a low percentage shot for him. He's going to take the damn 3 points. And if Jared Cannonier wants to give him a wide open three, Izzy's going to hit it and he's going to win 50-45. Like, if you give him the win, he's going to take it. And you can't blame him for that. You cannot blame him for that.
Ooh, last question. I actually like this question.
If Carla wins and has 3 wins over the 2 women who beat Joanna twice each, does that make Carla the strawweight GOAT? No.
Is it still Joanna?
Yeah.
That is a good question. That's some serious MMA math.
But Carla fought Joanna, and we know what happened.
Yeah, so but then Joanna left the sport once she found out Esparza was champ. Joanna's, it's right there.
What if they had fought again, Mike?
Yeah.
Not in my eyes. I always wanted.
You know what? Not in my eyes. Not in my eyes. I'd still be riding the Joanna train. But hey, if Esparza winning on Saturday opens up all kinds of questions. I'll tell you that right now. Opens up some questions, answers some other questions.
Mine is an injury, a pre-existing injury that Zhang has, or she just twists her ankle walking into the cage. God, for me, Esparza winning will by far be a much bigger upset. I know this is weird to say, a much bigger upset than when Nunes lost to Pena. Because to me, Pena had a path to victory, a clear path to victory.
Yeah,
I don't see a path to victory for Esparza. That's the issue.
I can. Oh well, I don't know. No. I know I said earlier. I'll stand by what I said and say it's still a notch below, but I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not ranking wise or like quality of fight, just fighter versus fighter.
In your eyes.
Yeah, how they match up. Yeah, I always thought Pena had a clear path to victory. I just do not see how Esparza can beat Zhang Weili on the ground, and yeah. But
all right.
it's a fight to make. It's a fight that makes sense. Anything else, gentlemen?
Well, that's it. We are done.
Excited.
Lots happening tomorrow, 5:15 Eastern time. That's when the People's Pre-Fight show is happening. So just gonna answer all your questions. Don't know who the panel is gonna be. I know for sure Casey's gonna be there, and I think Jed's gonna be there. I don't know if I'm gonna be there or not. We'll see. Then the watch party, ladies and gentlemen. Myself and GC, we're taking over Ariel's studio. 9:45 p.m. Eastern. I cannot wait. Let's watch the fights together, everybody. If you want to buy the pay-per-view, watch with us, cool. If you don't want to buy the pay-per-view and just want to find out what's going on with us, all the same. So for Casey, for AK, I am Mike Heck. Thank you for watching. To quote the great John Anik, one last sleep, baby. We'll see you tomorrow. One more sleep. Crap. Screwed it up. Sorry, John.
All right, we're starting the show over. Let's do it again. Run it back.